はい、皆さんこんにちは。JetBrains 日本担当の堀岡です。今日はお忙しいところご参加いただきありがとうございます。今日のウェビナーなんですけれども、JetBrains Rider で、Unity スクリプト作成を快適にということで、まずですね、私の方で、オープニングでこの、イベントの紹介等を簡単にします。で、その後なんですけれども、Matt の方のビデオですね、日本語字幕付きのビデオをご覧いただいて、その後、クイズと Q&A という形で進めていければと思います。で、今回の、イベントなんですけれども、ゲーム開発向けウェビナーということで、大体ですね、全部で3つですね、3つの回に分けて、開催いたします。で、本日がまず第1回目なんですけれども、第1回は Unity で C# スクリプトっていうところをフォーカスします。で、次回ですね、来週の木曜日は Unreal Engine で C++ 開発、こちらを紹介します。で、第3回、これはちょっと2月に入ってからなんですけれども、ライダーフローという無料のツールがあります。これの Unity での活用方法についてご紹介いたします。で、早速今日のイベントのメインの主役なんですけれども、マットの方を紹介したいと思います。Hi, Matt, could you introduce yourself shortly?
Sure thing. Hi, everyone. Thank you all for joining. My name is Matt, and I'm a developer advocate for JetBrains, and I work with the gaming tools that we have.
Thank you very much. こちらの、ちょっとマットの方ですね、ビデオと Q&A の方、メインに話してもらいます。はい。で、今日の、ウェビナーの中ではですね、YouTube のチャットウィンドウと、あと Twitter ハッシュタグ、JetBrains 道場っていうところで、質問とかですね、感想とか、共有いただければ、こちらの方で確認して、で、Q&A セッションの方で質問とあれば、回答させていただければと思います。で、あと、申し込みの時に、申し込みページとかもしくはドアキーパーの方経由でいただいた質問についても回答させていただければと思います。でですね、このイベントの中でクイズ、Q&A のところでクイズを2回やりますので、ぜひご参加いただければと思います。で、注意点は、1回目はですね、クイズの回答を、YouTube のチャット欄で募集します。で、2回目は、Twitter のハッシュタグ JetBrains 道場で回答してください。それぞれ回答する場所がちょっと違うので、ご注意ください。で、回答いただいて、正解いただいた人の中で1人、抽選で各質問1人、ライダの個人向けサブスクリプションが当たりますという形になっています。はい。あと、本日のウェビナーは録画されて、後日ですね、JetBrains の YouTube チャンネルで公開いたしますので、ご承知ください。ご承知おきください。はい。ではですね、これから、マットのビデオの方を始めていきたいと思います。
Hello, everyone. Thank you all for joining. My name is Matt, and I'm a developer advocate at JetBrains. And today I'm going to talk to you about using Rider, using JetBrains Rider as your script editor in Unity, and all the good things that it can do to help you with your project and help you work really well with your scripts and understand what your code is doing. Getting started is very easy. You just need to be using Unity. I've got a sample project already open here. If we open our preferences for external tools, you'll see that Unity has already recognized that we've got Rider installed. I can just select it from the drop-down. And then when I double-click a file, it will automatically be opened in Rider. Before we have a look at Rider, I just want to quickly show one thing there. If we go to the package manager, the support for Rider is built into later versions of Unity with the Rider package. It's always worth having a check to see if there's a newer version there and keeping that up to date to make sure you get the best experience. Okay, double-click a file, it opens in Rider, and this is what we've got for Rider. We've got the file and the source code shown very nicely in the editor there, and on the left-hand side we've got our project view. You can see here we've got a Unity window on the left here, and this is showing all of the files and folders that I've got in my project. And this is very nice because it's not showing you the solution files you've got there, but it's showing you a view very similar to the project view in Unity itself. So we can see all of our assets, and we can expand to any of these folders and see what files are available in there, animations and so on. And I can also see my scripts and use that then to just very quickly navigate around and open up my C# files. But we can also view all of our packages as well. So Rider understands that Unity applications and projects have got lots of packages, and we show you where all of the read-only reference packages are. So for example, we can see there's the JetBrains Rider package itself being referenced. You can open that up and have a look around in there as well, and you can work with the C# files that are part of those packages. Any packages that you have which are editable will be shown here as well. So I've got a copy of the Unity Collections package, and we could edit that. We could work with that, and Unity will compile that and use that for us. Let's jump back into the whole script editor as a whole. So there are two keyboard shortcuts that I want to teach you today. This is the most important thing for getting started and for using Rider. So let me just close these windows down for a second. If I close everything down, the two main keyboard shortcuts are Shift-Shift to open up Search Everywhere, and Alt-Enter, which I'll show a bit more shortly. But Shift-Shift is our search tool, and this gets you anywhere in your project. You can start typing, say, for menu, and it'll get me anything with menu in there. It'll search for classes, for files, for symbols. It will even search for actions across the IDE as well. So if I very quickly want to go to this Tower Defense main menu, I can just type menu, or I can do it even quicker. I just use TDMM, Tower Defense main menu. Very easy way of navigating around and getting to the code that you want. It will take me to the class or to the symbol. For example, I can go and find projectile, and there's ballistic projectile that I'm looking for, and it'll take me to there. I could go and look for start speed, which is a field being used in ballistic projectile. I can also see that it's being used in linear projectile, and I can very quickly navigate there. So it's a great way of navigating around your code. If you know where you want to go, type in the name, and Rider will take you there. The other useful thing you can do here is search for actions in the code. So if I want to turn word wrapping on, for example, I can do that. I can use the Actions tab here, and then I can click word wrap on, and I can do it just with a simple hit of Enter, and it will do it directly without even closing the dialog for you. So you can update and work with that dialog very quickly. So the other item that we want to look at, the other keyboard shortcut, is Alt-Enter. Now, you're going to see sometimes across the code that Rider is looking at your code and scanning it and trying to find issues that will help you, and it will save time for you and find problems before they become a problem in your build. And so, for example, here we've got ballistic projectile. We've got an inspection where Rider is telling us that this class has some virtual members but no inheritors. We don't need those virtual members, so we can use Alt-Enter to show our menu, which can fix things. And this Alt-Enter menu can do a lot of great things. It can fix up, do quick fixes to change this. So, for example, I can make this file sealed, and that will remove those virtual methods for me. And in fact, if we go to the version control menu, I can show a diff there to see exactly what's happened, and we can see that the class has been made sealed. These fields have been made private, and some virtual methods there have been removed. If I decide I don't want those, I can very quickly right-click there and roll back, and we're back to how we were before. So Alt-Enter is a very useful tool which can do a lot of things. It can also do things where there aren't any highlights. So, for example, I'm on the public keyword here. If I use Alt-Enter there, I can very quickly change public to internal, or change it back to public. It's a great way of very quickly updating your code. Other really useful things we've got here, in fact, let's just get over to the name of the class. If you look at the bottom of the bottom of the menu here, we've got a few different items. We've got things like navigate to, refactor this, inspect, and generate. These are entry points to pretty much all of the functionality of Rider. If you can use this from Alt-Enter, you'll be able to get to nearly everything that you can do. So for example, if we select refactor this, we get another menu of all the different refactorings we can do with our code. Refactorings where we can change the code to have it do the same thing, but in a different way. So for example, here, I can safely rename the code. So instead of just going through and doing find and replace on ballistic projectile, I can very quickly change its name, and Rider will do all of that work for me. And it'll update everything. We can see that Unity in the background has recognized that and is recompiling and rebuilding. So I can do Alt-Enter, use my refactoring items there, and do a whole load of different things like safe delete as well. So if I want to just check whether I can actually delete something, is it being used somewhere else in code, we can run the safe delete, see if it's being used, and only delete it if nobody else is using it. Other items down the bottom which are really useful is the Navigate To menu, and you can see these entry points have keyboard shortcuts right there as well, so you can jump straight there. But we can use the Navigate To menu to show different items. We can go to the declaration, we're already there, but that would be useful if I was here, for example. I can go Navigate to Declaration, and that takes me straight to the item. If we go to Navigate To, I can go to up and down the class hierarchy. I can go and see base symbols or derived symbols here. So I can see that, let's go to my base symbols, and I get an option here. I can go to mono behavior. And if I navigate to that, Rider will decompile the code for me. And it will show me mono behavior as well, even though it's a Unity specific class. Go back to Navigate to base symbols. Or I can go to this iProjectile, and I can go and see the definition of this interface. And if I navigate here, I can very quickly jump to the code, and I can do a similar thing here with Navigate to Derive Symbols, and I get to see everybody who is implementing the interface there as well. So I can see my ballistic projectile, the renamed ballistic projectile, and I can see my other projectiles as well, linear, homing projectile, and wobbling projectile as well. Nobody wants a wobbling projectile. So we can do lots of nice things. We can navigate around, and we can work with things. Another one which is useful there is the generate code. So if I'm in a mono behavior, for example, and I open this menu, there's a lot of things I can do, such as creating equality members or overriding members for virtual classes. But down at the bottom here, we've got this Unity event functions. And if I select that, we get a nice list of all the Unity event functions that I can add to this class. So if I just select a bunch of those, then you can see very quickly they get added into my class here. And if I look at the tooltip for that there, we get to a little description there as well. We can see reset to default values, and I can click the external documentation link, which is just opened on a different window. If I bring that there, and we can see that the external documentation will open up the installed documentation that I've got alongside this Unity installation there. So it's a great way of finding out the information about the different classes that you've got available to you from Unity. Let's just undo that. So click on that and roll back the changes. So again, version control helping me out here. And of course, I don't have to use that dialog there. I can just start typing as well, and Rider will recognize that I'm trying to create one of my event functions, and it will auto-complete that for me. Now, the other really useful thing that you can do with Alt-Enter is all of these inspections. And you can see now I've got this reset class function. And in fact, let's just create an awake function. Oops. I think I've already got awake. I've already got awake defined in here. So let's say I've just created an awake function, and you can see that now Rider has grayed this out, so that we're not getting the normal sort of syntax highlighting here. And if I hover over that, it's because Rider isn't telling me that this is a redundant event function. This event function is going to get called by Unity, but it doesn't do anything, and so it's actually a performance issue. And so Rider's telling us that there's something we can do there. If I do Alt-Enter, I can quickly remove that event function, and we've kind of helping make our code a bit better. Let me just put that back in so that I don't cause trouble. It's particularly useful for things like update, because update will be called so many times per second, once every frame. And if you are making these calls and doing nothing, then that's just, you're paying a performance price there for something that's you don't need to do. We've got a lot of other, Rider has thousands of C# specific inspections. We can find things like how to modernize your code, how to make your code use more up-to-date C# features. We can also show you when your code is not using normal naming standards, and it give you Alt-Enter fixes there to make those better. But we've got a lot of Unity-specific features, and that's what I want to show you today. The things that Rider can do to really help you work with your Unity code, and how Rider will suggest best practices for you, and it will also suggest things like sort of performance-related items there as well. So if we just navigate to, in fact, let's just go to my inspections folder here. I've got a few examples. We've got some nice simple examples there of where Rider recognizes the use of Unity color. And so we've got highlighting there of color red. If I just show that, we're using, this is the color type defined in Unity Engine. And it's showing there, we've got red, green, blue, they're highlighted. If I do Alt-Enter there, I can pick a color from a palette and I can edit those and we'll update the code directly in the place. If I drag the color chooser, where is it? Oh, no. Let's try that again. So if I bring up that, if I grab the color chooser, doesn't want to work for some reason. Well, we can usually use that to go off. There we go. Now it's working. Go off and choose a particular color under the chooser, and it will then update the code based on that. So that's a great way of being able to sort of point at your game, at some assets there, choose a color, and very quickly get that into your code. So there are a couple of different things that we can do that Rider will help you reduce the amount of time that that you spend having to swap between Unity and Rider. So for example, we've got some features when if you create a mono behavior, for example, here, if you're using new to create a mono behavior, that's perfectly valid C# and it will compile and it'll work fine. But when you go at runtime, Unity will then tell you that you can't use new on a mono behavior because Unity itself has to manage this. But we can tell you that inside the editor as well. So we can give you an inspection here to say that mono behavior instances must be instantiated with add component instead of new. And we can do Alt-Enter and very quickly fix those up and allow you to choose which game object it is that's going to add the component. Similar sort of thing with scriptable objects there. So this is about saving you time when you switch to Unity. So we can find problems before you have to switch over there. Other interesting things we can do is things like invalid method signatures. So if you're using various attributes like did reload scripts, then we can show you that actually it needs to be a static method, and we can quickly fix those up. Similar problems with, let's see, do load here is also missing static method there, and Alt-Enter, we can quickly fix those. If I have, I'm in a mono behavior there, so if I have one of my methods on an application focus, and for example, if I have that empty without the method signature there, we'll show you that that's incorrect, and then Alt-Enter can again change the parameters to fix that back up again. So we do a lot of work there to understand how Unity is using your code and to fix those before it would be a problem at runtime. Similar issues with some of the magic strings. Unity does a lot of magic strings there. So if you've got inputs, values or tags or layers and scenes, these are all handled as strings, which you won't know until runtime. But Rider can look at this information from your Unity project and give you information such as code completion. So if you're using input, you can use the getAccess method there. Rider will give you a whole set of code completion methods, which you can then use to update your code. And if there's something there which isn't defined, then we will highlight it as a warning, and tell you that it's likely to fail when you get to runtime. A similar thing then with compare tag. Excuse me. The tag is not defined in tags and layers, and again that will return false and won't be useful. But we've got actual tags there, and we can show those as in a code completion list. Similar thing for if you're just comparing it against the tag method as well. So it isn't just about the compare tag function, but if you're comparing it against the tag property, then we recognize that's a tag and show you those values. Similar thing with layers and scenes there as well. Great way of providing the information in the editor without having to swap to Unity to find these errors and to get into runtime. Very similar thing is things like redundant attributes there. So for example, you can see here that we've got some serialized field attributes that are redundant. This is very, very useful because it'll show you when something is not being serialized when you think it might be. So we've got a method, we've got a string, we have a field here that is being, has got the serialized field and also the non-serialized attribute there. This means that it won't get serialized, and we've got a redundant attribute, and we can use Alt-Enter again to clean that up. A really helpful one is when you put serialized field on a property. You forget that it's all about fields, and it's not going to work with a property there. And again, we can very quickly Alt-Enter, remove it, but we'll gray it out and we'll show you that this is not going to work as you might think it does. Another useful feature we can do, though, is if we've got a redundant attributes here, we can actually say, well, remove all of them within the file, and it cleans up a whole bunch of things straight away. So we know that there's a whole bunch of problems there, and we can fix them. And it's not just in the file, we can do it across the folder, the project, or the whole solution as well. We can fix your code. Other related inspections that we've got is sort of to do with best practices. And so if we can have a look at some of those, let's just go to something like set float here. This is all about the best practices that Unity suggests you use while you're writing your code. And again, it's about trying to bring that advice, not just from the web pages and the documentation of Unity, but into the editor. So for example, here we've got the set float method. This is taking in a string value test. But what this method does is, the very first thing it does is it converts the string value test into an ID and uses that ID as the lookup. Instead of doing that every single time you call it, we can use this, we can create a cached property called test. If I just jump to that, and that will do it once and save the value and then use that ID instead of the string value. Again, we've already seen the problem with updates. We can Alt-Enter and very quickly delete that method, and we're good. But similar things then with using a tag. If we compare a string literal against a tag, this is going to allocate, and so this is going to be expensive, especially if you're doing it in an update loop there. It's actually much better to use the compare tag method, and so we can Alt-Enter and quickly fix that. And again, this is something that we can run across the whole project or in the whole solution even, and fix everywhere where this is a problem. We can do slightly more interesting things as well here. So for example, when we're instantiating an object, Unity will very firstly create it at a default location in the hierarchy. But then if you change the parent, Unity has to do a lot more work then to give it a different location in the hierarchy. And that can be expensive. And it's a whole lot easier if you combine everything together. And we can find this information, we can find this pattern here and suggest a quick fix. And you can very quickly fix that. And in fact, you can, again, run it across the whole project. So you can apply these best practices very easily and very quickly. Similar sort of thing with string literals in a component. So instead of using a string literal there, you can actually use a type. And you get a typed response back. It's a quicker lookup, and it's a much better way of working. Let's just jump over to a slightly different feature here. So far, we've been looking at sort of warnings and inspections here. This is a slightly different thing. This is not showing you that there is something wrong with your code, but it's giving you some information, some extra context. The idea here is that we know the update method is called very, very frequently. And so you want to be careful about the amount of work you do in the update method, and you need to be careful about avoiding APIs, method calls that Unity knows are expensive. So for example, it's not a good idea to call getComponent inside an update method. And Rider can tell you this. Rider can give you this information. So for example, here we've got an update method as part of a mono behavior, and we can see it's being marked as an event function. And I'll come back to these in a minute. But here it's being marked as an event function, and it's got the little hot icon there as well to say that it's being called very, very frequently. And inside this method, we will then recognize various expensive methods. So we know that getComponent is expensive. So you probably don't want to call that in update. This isn't a warning. This is just giving you the information now to say that there's an expensive method here. What we can do in Alt-Enter is introduce a field and initialize it in start or awake. And so that will, that will then create a method, a new field. And if we go and find usages, we can see that in start, we've now got that getComponent call. So again, it's not about finding errors or warnings in your code, it's about giving you that information there. We can do this in other parts of the code as well. So we know that update calls reset enemy. And so if we control click and navigate to reset energy, we can see that this is being marked as frequently called as well because it's being called from update. And in here, there's a getComponent call. So we know that you want to probably avoid calling getComponent here. And so you can then investigate further. But if we go back to where we were using reset enemy, we now realize that reset enemy is doing something expensive and give you that information. So this is a very rich set of information that Rider gives you that can be used then to decide whether you need to profile further and find out if you've got an actual performance issue, or whether this is absolutely fine, whether you're just calling getComponent once and it's not going to hurt your code at all. So it's up to you then to look into it a bit further. Okay, so that's the main bits of the inspections. Actually, no, there's one last thing I want to show you with inspections. Let's go to this one. This is a good example of this. So this inspection is looking at mono behavior and comparing it against null. If you compare a mono behavior against null, this is not just checking to see whether the C# object is initialized or not. It's also looking to see if the underlying Unity game object has been destroyed. And this is quite complicated, and it is something that can be easily missed, especially when we're using more of the new C# features, such as the null coalescing operator here. So this is looking to see whether MB is null, and if it is, if it's not, create a new instance of the mono behavior. But this has got an inspection here because using this operator actually avoids doing the check to see if the underlying game object is still alive. This is all quite, as I say, it's all quite complicated, which is why it's really useful to be able to do Alt-Enter, go into the inspection options menu, and down at the bottom here, we've got why is Rider suggesting this? And this menu item will open an explanation page. Let's bring the thing there, which explains all of the information around this. And it explains why you're seeing the inspection and also how you can fix it, how you can make the code better. The Unity inspections have this documentation for pretty much all of the inspections, and it's a very useful way of working. Of finding out and understanding why we're suggesting this. So we're not just, Rider isn't just telling you to do something so you must do it. There's a reason for it, and these documents will explain why. Okay, so that's enough on inspections. Let's go and have a look at, let's go back to my ballistic projectile. And I was going to mention what these links at the tops are. You can see here we've got you can see the version control information there. I can also see where my code is being used in code. So for example here, if I just go back to my navigate to, I can go to find usages. This will show me everywhere that this code is being used in the project. And you can see I've got my results here. It's being used as a type argument in this ballistic launcher. And you can see the code in a preview there on the right-hand side. But what we also do, which is a lot more fun and interesting for Unity projects, is that we index your project, your scenes, your prefabs, your assets, and we get to show you where this code is being used inside your Unity projects. So here we've got my usages in code, but next to it we've got these 3 asset usages. And if I click that, we can see now that this class is being used, this mono behavior is being used inside these 3 projectiles. And if I click that, we can jump straight over to Unity, which will quickly recompile because I've been changing code. But you can see now we've got this usages window, and it's showing us, let me just reload that. Let me click. And if I go back to there, we've got this usages window, which is showing us then that it's being used inside these prefabs here. And I can double click that, and you can see it's being highlighted in the project window there. So this is a very smart way of working with your scripts, where we can see that Rider understands where your scripts are being used inside your Unity code, and we can then join those things up. So instead of having Unity and Rider, we can sort of bring those together and show where your scripts are being used. And if we look at these serialized fields as well, we can see here that this arc preference has got the value use low. We've got a fire mode being set to use launch speed, and a firing angle here being set to 15. So we can actually see where your serialized data is being used and what the value is. So I can see that my firing angle is always 15 in all the assets that this is being used in. But if we look at start speed, we can see it's being changed in 3 assets. So if I click that, I can see I've got 3 different values in the different projectiles. So if I select this particular prefab, then again, we'll see where it's being used. And we can see, projectile 2. And if I pull the inspector open a bit, in fact, let's click that. Let's dock that window. So let me grab that down to there. So yeah, so if I select my projectile 2 there, and if we scroll down here, we should be able to see now my start speed there is 20. And if I change that now to be 50 and save the project, if I get back here, we should then very quickly see that Rider has picked that up as being set to 50. And so it's a great way of bringing that serialized data into your editor and seeing where it's being used. Okay, so other useful things that we do to help you with your code is, that's the file I want, is working with assembly definition files. So assembly definition files are a great way of splitting up your project into different assemblies, to make them quicker to compile, so that if only the changes within that assembly will be compiled. But there's a number of interesting things happening in the code itself. So if you've got references, for example, they might be stored as GUID to assets, which are very tricky there, but we can very quickly show it. We can show it in the editor there to show that we're referencing here post-processing in Unity collections. And we can also control-click and navigate to that. We can see now we're in the post-processing assembly definition there on the left. Or I can go to my Unity collections one, and I can see that this is we've got other assemblies that are being included there as well. And in fact, so we can keep on going. In fact, what we can also do is here we can go to navigate to and find usages, and we can see everywhere that Unity collections is being used. So if I just close these down a bit, we can see it's being used in Unity collections tests, test play mode, as part of the burst compatibility gen, and then as part of my my class there as well. If we just go back to the inspections assembly definition, then if you're using version defines here, we can show you now when we've got, if you're trying to check with a version of Unity, we'll show you what the current version of Unity is so that you understand whether that expression is going to be true or not. Same with packages there. I want to say that I want to have Rider, which is at least 1.0, and we've got 3.0.14 installed. If I change that to 10, we can now see that that symbol has grayed out, and it's saying that this symbol isn't defined because we've got an unmet version constraint there. So it's great way of telling you quite what's going on with your assembly definition files without, again, you having to swap to Unity. All right, so that's sort of working with your scripts. When you want to actually work with your code, you generally want to do some debugging as well. And so we've got all that information set up here. We've got automatically recognized that we've got a Unity project, and you can attach to Unity Editor or attach to Unity Editor and switch into play mode as well. Once we've selected one of those, we can just hit debug, and that will attach the editor, attach the debugger directly to the editor. And if I jump over here, and in fact, let's set a breakpoint first. Let's go to the main menu. And if we go to the title screen, no, it's not title screen, is it? It's the level select menu there. We can set a breakpoint, or we've already got one set. And then if I start playing this, of course, Unity will just quickly compile again after I've made some more changes. And we started the app running, there's the game running. And as soon as I hit the level select menu, we're in the debugger. And we get to see the expected features that we've got there. We've got a call stack here. There's external code filtered out. If I undo the filter there, we can see all of our Unity engine code there. And in fact, I can actually double click that and we'll decompile the code and allow you to debug even inside the Unity code. Let's go back to my code there. A couple of useful things that the debugger gives you is to give you some of the context that you need when you're working with a game. So we show you the active scene straight away there. And if we open that there, we've got the active scene. You can see the name of it, the path to the file, but also you can see these game objects. So the debugger adds the game objects to the active scene there. And we can step into that. If we have a look at the canvas there, we can see what components the canvas has got attached to it. And we can also see then the child game objects that you've got there. And you can kind of keep going here as well and look at all the different components and child game objects. So you've effectively got a debugger view of the same hierarchy that's being shown in the editor. Except, of course, you can't work with the Unity editor right now because you're stuck at a breakpoint. We also show you the current game object, and if you open that out, again, you get the components and the children objects there as well. But right, let's just carry on with that. If we select a level there and we start a wave playing, let's just clear the log file for a second. Now, as the agents start coming in, we can see now we've got various messages. Let's just uncollapse those coming through on the debug log. If you're in the editor, that information is also useful to you while you're editing. And so we've got a Unity tab window here, which if I open that, it shows you all of the different log messages that are going on there as well. So we've got the log messages that are coming through right now, and we've got our call stack there, and we can click anything there. So I could click change health, and that's going to open the change health method in the editor. Same with take damage or attack home base there. And in fact, I can click on the class names as well as the actual line numbers that are going on there. Excuse me. Now, let's just quickly show something else with the debugger. Let's hide that window back. If we come back here and restart, got a couple of really nice features with debugging. If I right click on the debugger there, I can set up a condition such as current index equals 3. That means the fourth item comes along, when the fourth sort of agent comes in to try and attack, then the breakpoint will be hit. So I don't want this breakpoint to hit every time one of my agents comes at me, but I want when the fourth one comes in. So if we just wait a second as these items come through, then there we are. The breakpoint has been hit. So these conditional breakpoints, by right-clicking and setting in a condition here, is a great way of letting your game run and then debugging at a certain point. But one of the problems now is that I can't do anything with the editor here. So if I wanted to inspect what's going on as a game, as this particular case, if I've got a bug with the fourth agent for some reason, I can't inspect it because the debugger is stopped at the breakpoint. And if I just continue that, then I'm no longer stopped and I've missed my chance. We've got a great way of working with that with Rider. If you right-click on your breakpoint again, down here we've got what we call a Unity pause point. If I just click that, the icon has changed here. And if we just restart let me just restart. If I just restart the wave there, and if we see the items come through, we're going to wait for our fourth item. And when that one starts, then we see now that the game switches into pause mode. So the breakpoint with our condition has now not suspended the execution of the code. It has told the Unity editor to go into pause mode. And now I can work with my level as you'd expect. I can sort of navigate around, select items, and work with things. So let's say I select my enemy there and make it float. And if I come out of pause mode, then we should see it floating. But I think we might be at the wrong angle for that. But we can edit items and we can work with items. We can change things, inspect stuff that's going on there, and then just come out of pause mode and carry on working. The final thing that I'd like to show then is unit testing as well. So unit testing games is a very interesting topic, and Rider supports this. It'll look for anything in your code, anything in your project which is using the NUnit test framework there. I've got some tests here. I think it's from the collections package, but Rider has picked those up. And if we go to the top of the file, there we can see the class. We can just click on this green button here to run all, or indeed I can just run one method here. And if I do run all there, then Rider will go and connect to the editor and run. Oh, wait a minute, I need to come out of play mode. That should be it. Let's put that back to what it is. Run all of those there. And now the interesting thing about testing with Unity is that you need to be running these tests inside the Unity process. What Rider does is it connects to the Unity process. Oh, with the debugger, let's just stop the debugger and go back to my tests. And so Rider will connect to the Unity editor. It'll run the tests and it will report all those things within within Rider. And when you can see then we've got all green tests here, but if there are any test failures, we'll have a stack trace. I can click that, I can navigate around, and I can work with the results of my tests in the code base that I'm using, which is a great way of working. So I think that is a very quick overview of what Rider can offer. It's got a lot of great features and functionality for working with your scripts. We show you your Unity project as a Unity project. You get to see assets and packages and everything. We've got lots of Unity-specific inspections. We will try and show you best practices before you switch over to the editor. We'll try and save you time from switching to the editor, finding an error, coming back, changing it, switching to the editor. And we index all of your assets as well. We know where your code is being used inside the assets. And we can show you the serialized data right in the editor. We can do find usages. We can rename event handlers and have that updated in the scene. And we've got great support for debugging as well. We'll give you great context for working with your debugger items and allow you to navigate around and find lots of things to use there. So I hope this has shown you some very useful features of Rider. Again, the most important things that I would say are the two keyboard shortcuts, Shift to go off and search anything, and I can very quickly navigate around. And then Alt-Enter to try and make quick fixes and changes, and to use that as entry points to navigate, refactor, and generate code. Thank you all for watching, and please download Rider and try it out with your projects today.
はい、ビデオの方はいかがでしたでしょうか。これから Q&A セッションの方を進めたいと思うんですけれども、 Q&A に行く前にですね、クイズ第1問目ですね。これから進め方、クイズ第1問目をやって、で次に Q&A やって、で、エンディングの前にクイズ2回目やりたいと思います。で、繰り返しになりますが、正解者の方には抽選でライダーのライセンスが提供されますので、答えが分かる人は早く答えてください。はい、それでは第1問目。繰り返しになります。YouTube のチャット欄でお答えください。はい、第1問。Unity エンジンが発表されたカンファレンスを主催していた会社は次のうちどれでしょうか？ A、Apple、B、Microsoft、C、Amazon、D、Facebook。ちょっとお待ちましょうか。答えてくれた方。室星さん、正解です。ありがとうございます。室星さんは連絡先がわかるので、後でご連絡いたします。はい。すみません。じゃあですね、次セッション、Q&A セッションに移りたいと思います。質問がある方は、YouTube のチャット欄か Twitter でお願いします。で、そうですね。最初に、すでに、いただいている質問からお答えしましょうかね。So we are going to answer the question already we have. Okay?
That sounds good, yeah.
これはですね、ドアキーパーの方でいただいた質問、ビジュアルスタジオと比べて優れている点があればいくつか教えてくださいということなんですけれども、質問の内容はビジュアルスタジオと比べて、ライダーが優れている点があれば教えてくださいということで、この質問に対する答えはですね、ちょっと先ほどのビデオの中で見ていただいたところが大きな答えになるかなと思います。一応、事前に会社の中で、得た回答としては、ライダーは一つの ID で、いろんなゲームの開発環境、Unity とか、リアルエンジンとか、あと Go.dot もサポートしてますと。で、ゲーム開発する上で、いろんな、Unity だったら Unity のそのベストプラクティスとか、そういったものを、エディターとして、実装しているというところが、ビジュアルスタジオと比べて、優れている点であるという回答です。ちょっと後でテキストでもまとめてご紹介します。はい。次の質問と、ライダーの日本語言語パックはいつリリースされるのですかという質問ですね。そうですよね。2022.3 でリリースするかもと言ってたけど、今遅れていて、で、今の予定では2023の1、もうすぐですね、EAP が始まると思いますので、その EAP の中で、提供される予定です。で、今日、日本語の環境を JetBrains でテストしているQA チームのメンバーがいるんですけれども、そう聞いたらテストはやってて、はい。EAP の最初はもしかして間に合わないかもしれないけれど、EAP の2に2回目のところでは、試していただけるようになるんではないかということでした。はい。 で、次の質問。次の質問までちょっと最初に答えますね。次の質問は、これも事前にいただいたんですけれども、ライダー 2023.1 の、内容はどういうものですかということで、答えとしてはですね、モノビヘイビア以外のシリアライズされたフィールドを正しく認識するようになるっていうのを、ちょっと私も答えててちょっと意味があれですけれども、それが一つの、面白い機能として実現されるようです。で、あとは、DOTS、データオリエンティッドテックスタックのサポートとか、あとは、ちょっとこれはEAP の中で実際実現されるかどうかわからないんですけれども、計画としては、Android デバイスを USB 経由でデバッグすることをサポートするとか、そういったものも、計画されているようです。で、次、質問がですね、他にもあったのが、次の質問がその DOTS と DOTS、データオリエンテッドテックスタックのサポートなんですけれども、これの詳細を知りたいということなんですけれども、これはですね、まだいっぱい紹介する準備がすいません、できてまだいないということだそうです。で、次なんですけれども、So, Matt, we are at the question 5. Question is, are there any plans to make the IL code generated from Unity viewable in IL Viewer? Unity から生成される IL コードを IL Viewer で、閲覧可能にする計画はありますかという U さんからの質問です。
Yeah, that's a great question. And in fact, let me just show something on the screen.
今、マットの方で画面を見て、ちょっと何か紹介してくれる。
Yeah, so I've got Rider here. Actually, I'm using a dark theme and the new user interface that we're just working on as well, which is a little bit cleaner and nicer. And I'll just show you what the IL viewer does.
ちょっと画面がNew UI でちょっと違ってますけど、これもこういうものだということで、ちょっとご覧ください。
So we have a tool window on the side here on the right for IL viewer, and when you build your code, you can see the IL that gets generated. I just need to quickly build the project, and we'll see the IL. Excuse me. Okay, we should now, there we go. So we can see my update method that I've got here is now defined in IL, and you can see exactly what the compiler has created. But Unity does extra processing on that, and it can create different IL. And right now, we don't look at that, but we do want to make that change. And hopefully in a new version, maybe the next one, maybe 2023.2, we will look at the files that Unity creates and show the proper IL.
はい。So do you mean that IL, so currently what we show is, it's not from Unity, but from what?
Yeah, so when Unity compiles your project, it saves the assemblies in a different location and does extra processing. we look at the assemblies from the local C# project, and so they are slightly different.
今なので、ライダーで表示しているのは、ローカルにそのコンパイルされたものを表示しているんですけれども、Unity は今マットが英語で答えたように、これプラス追加の処理をしていて、それは今、それの表示はサポートしていないので、2023.2 以降にサポートできればなというのが回答のようです。で、UML プラグインはありますかっていうのは、これはマットの方ですでに答えているので、だいたい質問は回答しましたでしょうかね。はい。So, Matt, do you want to show anything else or?
I think we have another question about moving to, when you move to the result of go-to usages and then getting back to the code. So for example, here, if I want to go to where M homing target is defined, I can do control click and it'll navigate to it. But now I want to get back. And the easiest way of doing that is if we use Shift, go to actions and type back. Then we've got an action here, which is back, and it shows you the keyboard shortcut as well. So on my machine, it's command and square bracket. And if I click that, it'll take me back. So I can navigate somewhere and then very quickly jump back. I can sort of navigate to somewhere and then jump back as well. And you can do that with all the navigation that you do. Just keep on going back, and it will take you back to where you were.
そうですね。今、その GoTo Definition でコマンドとかコントロール B で飛んで戻るっていうので、これ今、Mac の場合は、このコマンドとカッコの方向が合ってるかわかんないですけど、巻き戻るみたいな、そういうイメージで。で、Windows の方はちょっと Windows でバックで見て、いただければわかるかなと思います。Okay, thank you very much, Matt. So,
okay, thank you.
Do we have time to discuss about Android, iOS stuff, or
yes, we can talk about this.
So let me explain the question first. Yeah. ですね。こういうところで困っているとか、どうにかなりませんかっていうので、事前にいただいた質問の中で、Unity で Android のビルドと iOS のビルドを開発していると、一方だけ必要なユージングが、リファクタリングで誤って削除されてしまうことがあると。でこれはちょっとどうにかなりませんかということですね。で、これはちょっとなかなか難しい問題であるというのをマットから聞いています。で、マットがちょっとその難しいところとかを紹介したいと言ってたので、ちょっとご覧いただければと思います。So, I just shared the question and I just shared just explained that it's kind of difficult issue and then Matt can show something what's the difficulty is.
This is a very difficult problem. If we have code which is just for Android, then we don't look at it. This code could be anything. I can type anything, and this is fine. And so the code could be broken, so we can't analyze it. But that means if we do a rename, it doesn't rename down here, so we can lose it. But what we can do, which might be useful, is in Unity, we can generate player projects. So let me just wait for that to compile. We can go to project settings and external tools. I can't find external tools. I'm in the wrong window. One moment. This is the one. In Preferences, External Tools, you can click to generate player projects. If we regenerate our files there, then we get extra project files. So we get assembly C# and assembly C# .player. And the player can have then, whether it's Unity Android or Unity standalone. I think it's just standalone. Yeah. So now it can look at both. So if I'm in the editor, then we don't get the code. And then if you're in the player, then it shows it and it can work there. We can choose between the context that we're working with.
Mm-hmm. So what you suggest is to generate project for specific platform setting?
Generate player projects, and then you can see that then Rider can analyze editor code and it can analyze one player code as well. So it can analyze Android or iOS, whatever the current project is. So if I go to my build settings, my current player is, well, my current player is going to be, I think, a standalone player. Mm-hmm. Unity has stopped responding.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't show you. There it is. We're there. I could select Android or iOS, switch platform, and then the player file project will support Android development. But this could take a while now.
Mm. ちょっと私の役が答えになっているかわからないですけれども、Unity の設定でその外部ツールでgenerate so it's a main about generate player.
Yeah. Player project.
generate player っていうところをやると、そのプラットフォーム用の、プロジェクトが生成されるので、それをライダーの方で選ぶと、そのプラットフォームの設定が有効になっている状態で一応、ライダーのコード解析も動くし、チェックできるということなんですけれども、ちょっともし答えになってないようでしたら、後でちょっとご連絡ください。So I try to explain what I understand too, but I just let them know that if like my answer doesn't help, then please ask us later.
Yeah, absolutely. You can ask me on Twitter or add an issue in UTrack, and we can try and respond.
そうですね。質問があれば、マットにツイッターで聞いてもらっても構わないですし、JetBrains の、UTrack、バグトラッキングシステムの方でも聞いてもいいですし、あと、JetBrains サポートで検索していただければ、サポートの連絡先もあるので、ちょっとそちらの方でちょっと追加でご質問いただければと思います。Okay, so, do you have anything else, or can we just move to the closing? We have actually another quiz, but if you want to show anything else.
I think I'm happy. I don't think I have anything else that I'd like to show right now. Thank you.
Okay. はい。ではですね、ちょっと、次の、クイズ。今度はですね、ツイッターの方で、ツイッター誰も利用してないけどよろしければツイッターハッシュタグの方でお答えください。次の問題はこちらです。簡単かもしれないですけど、 1985年に発表された任天堂ファミリーコンピューターの海外版の名称はどれでしょうか？次の ABCD でお答えください。A、Gen X、B、NES、C、スーパービジョン、D、ビデオパック。これもちょっと待っておいて。So while we are waiting, I have one more question. Please tell us the best way to convince our boss to introduce Rider or JetBrains ID. 質問が JetBrains、室星さんからですね、ライダーや JetBrains ID を導入するよう上司を説得するいい方法はありますか？これはなかなか難しい質問ですね。あれですよね。会社さんによって、何が響くかっていうのが、違うところがあると思うんですけれども、何でも、とりあえず資料があればいいということでしたら、ちょっと後でこれはシェアしますけれども、JetBrains 製品の ROI みたいなのを計算するみたいな、そういう資料があるので、そういったものをまず参考になるかもしれません。あとは、それ以外はですね、ちょっとこれは、弊社の中でももっと作っていかないといけないものかもしれませんが、すでに結構ライダーとか、他の JetBrains の製品でもいいんですけれども、日本の中でこういう事例があるよとか、世界の中でこういう事例があるっていうのは結構それぞれの製品見ていただくと、マーケティングに協力いただける会社さんであれば、すでに使っていただいている会社さんのリストとかもあるので、そういうところで、ご参考になればと思います。ちょっとどのような資料があったら嬉しいとか、そういったものが、もしお持ちでしたら、ご連絡いただければ、ちょっとそれ一緒に考えたりすることもできるかなと思います。はい。ということでですね、エンディングの方に移りたいと思います。で、今日ご紹介したライダーの製品情報とかですね、JetBrains のウェブサイト、製品情報日本語になっているのでご覧ください。あとは、ちょっと英語になりますけれども、.net っていうところに、JetBrains の .net 製品、ライダーだったり、リシャーパーだったり、こういうものの最新情報、ロードマップとかも含めて、ブログとか、ツイッターとかでも発表しているので、こちらもご覧ください。はい。で、あとはですね、来週、JetBrains Rider で、Unreal Engine C++ 開発を快適にということで、今日は Unity C# の話が中心でしたけれども、Unreal C++ もですね、この、C# サポートと同じくらい、最近充実してきているので、もしこれ興味がある方はぜひご参加ください。はい。はい。ということで、今日の、セッションは以上になりますけれども、そうか、2つ目の質問、答えが合ってる人がいなかったみたい。 1985年に発表された任天堂ファミリーコンピューターの海外版の名称はということで、そうですね。まあちょっと答えが、もしですね、分かった方はね、ちょっとツイッターにポストしておいていただくと、後でちょっと我々が見て、どなたか、当たった人にご連絡いたします。はい。はい、ということで、今日のセッションは以上になりますけれども、まあどうだったでしょうか。英語で日本語字幕で、まあ、40分間って、まあちょっと人によっては、辛かったかなとかあるかもしれませんが、これ後で、YouTube のJetBrains TV の方でも見れるので、もしですね、途中で挫折してしまった方は、続きからご覧いただければと思います。はい。So, Matt, we are closing this session, and you want to say something?
Just thank you all for coming. Thank you for watching. And I hope you can download Rider, try it, learn something new, learn some tips, and enjoy using Rider with Unity.
はい。ではですね、もうライダーちょっと今使ったことない方はぜひダウンロードして、今日の話をベースに試していただければと思います。はい。では、ありがとうございました。
Thank you. Bye bye.